So, guest expert Sarah is here. I have this thing where I let people introduce themselves so I don't screw it up. But Sarah's awesome. She's in my mastermind with me. She's been a guest expert. You were a guest expert last time, and you've been in my group teaching amazing things. So, Sarah's basically just a badass. So, we're here. She's gonna, introduce herself and dig in, but this is going to be so helpful for those of us who want to just feel more confident in our messaging, and just whether it's on video, being able to go on video and just know what you're going to say and say it powerfully, or like even if it's writing, if you're not to video yet, and just be able to say what you want to say, get it to come through powerfully and clearly and really quickly and efficiently as well. So yeah, Sarah, you want to just go ahead and take over?
Sweet. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, so I'm Sarah Elizabeth. Most people shy away from saying my last name. It's Lahoud, in case anyone ever wants to try. But I'm a business coach and consultant, and I specialize in strong biz foundations. Brooke and I share that in common, and messaging. I call it epic messaging. And really, I'm going to talk to you guys today. Obviously, you know the name, Rapid Fire Epic Content. But the point of all this is I want to say up front that even if you're not interested in writing your own content, my really goal here is not that, you have to become a copywriter. I know that's not everyone's jam. It's my jam, but it doesn't have to be your jam. But really, I think we all agree, when you know what you want to say, even if you're not the one writing it or anything like that, that it just allows you to be a much bigger leader. And it really affects your sales and everything like that. But even just how people are even understanding or really interacting with your work. It's amazing if you know you're good at what you do, but it's so much better if people actually get it. Okay. So it's not that I don't think anyone did get it or anything like that, but I really think that this will kind of dive a lot deeper for everyone involved. So I think this is the state. I think I've done this class with you before, Brooke, haven't I? I feel like you've seen.
Yeah, you did this in the last round of our group program. So we have some of the same people who are alumni, and we have some new ones as well. So.
Oh yeah! Oh my God! Yeah, that's exciting. Okay, cool. Well, hi alumni, in case. Okay. All right, so I want to lay out, just so you know, I don't have slides today. What I have is a little whiteboard. So at some point I'm going to, actually, Brooke, I don't have my traditional whiteboard on the wall. Can I share my screen at some point? Because I can do okay. Because I have my little bamboo tablet, so I can whiteboard that way. It'll be messy, but it'll allow us to kind of see the stuff. But anyway, 3 goals, okay? The first one is I want you guys to get out of this feeling very in passion and in flow whenever you decide to open your mouth. Okay. Whether you're making a new offer, whether you're trying to explain your existing offer or write content, whatever, you want to feel like you have a million ideas the second you sit down to write. Okay. Good ideas, not just stupid ideas. Okay. Second goal. A lot of you, I know, just from talking to Brooke, and I've been this way too, that you are good at what you do, but sometimes what you do is too hard to explain. Okay. Or you just struggle to translate it. Okay. So that's goal number 2, that no matter what kind of crazy idea you come up with, you are able to say it in a way that people understand it. Okay. Goal number 3. This one is something I think people don't think about as much with messaging, but we really want to make it so that your whole business is a woven body of work, that this offer connects with this thing and that piece connects with this piece, so that you just have the sense that you're not constantly putting out shit and feeling you don't know where anything goes or anything like that. By the way, I tend to do that whenever I'm feeling oh my God, I didn't do enough this month. And I start throwing out little offers that don't mean anything. I mean, they mean something, but they don't all weave together. We want to kind of just get you in such a flow with your writing and your epic content that it feels no matter what crazy idea you come up with, they're all woven together and people can feel that. Okay. Oh yeah. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about a little bit is how to take all of your awesome content or messaging in general, and turn it into a supportive business over time. Because I know one thing you guys are working on with Brooke is not just being able to do something once, being able to book one client, but being able to build a business that can support you. God love us, when you want to take a day off or anything like that, but just generally building it into systems. And I have a very specific way that I do that with messaging too. Okay, cool. Sound good everywhere? Does anyone okay, question actually. Does anyone have something they want to bring to the table? Crap, this is why I'm watching this live, because Sarah, I'm dying to figure out this thing about messaging and I'm struggling. You guys are laughing, but seriously, I'm serious. Does anyone have something like that? Maybe? Jasmine, do you kind of? Is it Jasmine or Yasmin, firstly?
Jasmine, like the princess, but I was the original version because I came before the movie.
Oh, fair enough. So did I.
So basically, where I'm getting stuck mostly is just sort of like the in-between stage of like, like posting in like Boss Moms group, and I want to talk to my ideal client, but I also want, some of those people don't quite know what they are yet. So I want to make it a little bit more understandable that this is what I'm seeking, so that yes, I'm the person they want to find, or they're the person I want to find to talk to. So it's that in-between space. Kind of, well, ish. It's more like business strategy, automation hacks and systems and stuff.
Okay, cool. Why do you think your person doesn't know yet what she's looking for?
Because the terminology is a little bit niche-y and new. So I'm always like captioning, like this is what it really means.
Yeah.
But so so they understand, but I want to make it so that they, I guess it's like I'm really working on, like building a course out of something. So I'm working on a few one-on-ones to get the foundation of what they kind of want to build the course. So freebie, like 20-minute, 30-minute sessions to understand what they want to build a course.
I got you. Yeah. Okay. So I want to say that does anyone else like feel like this sometimes, that like you can't, like people don't get that they even need you? Like, you're reminding me, Jasmine, of like, this is kind of embarrassing, but a couple of years, Brooke knows the story. I'm so embarrassed. But few years ago now, actually, it was like 4 or 5 years ago. I got dumped out of nowhere by my boyfriend for 4 years. He literally just called me one day and was like, blah, 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 and hung up the phone. And I was like, what the, can I curse? Are there kids? You guys good? Fuck, what the flying fuck? Anyway, and what was so crazy was that within a few days of it happening, I actually knew exactly who to call. And the reason that I knew exactly who to call was because he had been posting content that so clearly explained something that I didn't even realize I needed. And I actually felt really grateful to this particular coach who I ended up working with, because he had done such a good job in his messaging over a period of time that when something like this did happen, even though I had no idea why, I knew that he would have the answer because he'd been explaining the problems. Okay. So I think that is a huge thing. And I do want to talk about that today. The other thing I'm going to say to you is this. One of the things I'm going to like add on at the very end that has really nothing to do with, it has something to do with messaging, but it's kind of like the next stage, might be something you'd be into too. Because if you're talking about building into like a group program as you're doing the messaging and all these kind of pieces, you're really just layering moving parts over time. And so I'm going to talk like very briefly about like on-ramping and how to turn your messaging into like a stronger system. And I feel like those two together might answer your question. If it doesn't, I will leave time at the end and you can be like, Sarah, no, you didn't. Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
sweet. Actually, Brooke, how long do we have? Question. I don't even know.
They're scheduled for an hour and a half. So.
Oh, okay, we have time. I wasn't going to talk for an hour and a half, so that's fine. Sorry, Jasmine, I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, it's just hashtag, that happened to me at the end of, in the summertime. So yeah, everybody kind of knows where I'm at on that whole, after 7.5 or 6.5 years and 3 major moves.
I am so sorry.
Hashtag, he sent me an email 2 weeks after walking out.
Okay, fun fact for you, not that it's fun, but like for men, it can take them from anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months to decide how they feel about something. That if you actually like ask, if anyone who has like a male partner in their lives, if you ask them a question, they often won't give you the real answer for like 2 weeks. Because they literally, it's not good or bad. They just like struggle psychologically. Didn't know that. If I'd known that, might not have come out of the blue. But anyway, that's not the point. I'm sorry to hear that. That really sucks. But I'm glad I told that story then. Then we can commiserate together. Stupid men. Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
All right. So, okay. Yeah. But I hear you on the terminology. And I think anyone who's a coach, I feel like this is something that we all kind of struggle with sometimes. Because again, when you're a coach, a lot of times people don't realize what they need. Even business coaches, this is true. Because we tend to self-diagnose. A lot of times I'll ask my clients, like, what's the number one priority? And they'll always, God love them, but like the newbies will always say things to me like, oh, I got to work on this program. I got to work on this content. I got to finish this lead magnet. That's not the priority. When I ask you the priority is like, got to make money, got to serve people. Okay. So we just kind of want to like be thinking, like, just be honest. Sometimes we don't really know what we need and your clients are the same way. So we're going to just talk about how to get your messaging to like help people understand, not like a bitch, because you guys aren't bitches. This needs to be not sleazy. Obviously that's the number one goal, but you guys are a little bit experts. I'm going to ask you to act that way. Deal? Cool. No shying away. Do we have hiders in here, Brooke? I'm such a hider. You guys, like, I am the biggest hider. I had my mastermind call this morning and I was like hiding in a fucking corner the entire time. Like no video. I was like just having a weird day. So whatever, you guys can hide, but I'll call you out. Okay. Here's what we want to do. Okay. So you guys know the goals. My notes are actually in 2 places, so forgive me while I look up and down, but here's the thing. Again, I don't want to just write content for the sake of writing content. Okay. Like content's important and that's awesome, but like you could even write like 1 piece and it'd be more valuable and book you more clients if that's the number 1 goal than anything else. Like I have 2 or 3 pieces in my arsenal that every time I post them, I make money. Like I'm not constantly writing. It's just fine. Okay. So it's more of a priority that we're going, okay, what is the priority? And again, I think the priority is for you to make money and of course build a sustainable business that over time continues to do so and to serve your clients in the easiest way possible for everybody. Okay. And I know that's Brooke's number 1 goal too. So I'm going to give you something, guys, it's going to seem so annoying and you're going to be like, oh, this is simple. I've done this before. But I actually always think about, I don't know, Brooke, do you agree that, like every new level in your business and probably life as well, you're kind of just doing the same things over and over again to like deeper and newer levels, and just getting better at it and like a deeper understanding or whatever. So that's really all I'm going to be doing. I'm just going to point out like this. And I want you guys, depending on where you are in your journey, you're going to do it on whatever level you're at. And then like in a few months time, you're going to take it to a new level and a new level and a new level. So like everyone, no matter where you are right now, it's going to be the same process. It's the same for me. It's the same for Brooke. Okay. And it's very, very simple, but there's one thing we actually have to do first. Okay. So the 3 sort of steps, if you will, in my brain are, don't yell at me, packaging. Okay. Brooke's like, haha. 2 is messaging. Okay. So that you're literally saying shit that is actually clear, which is, I know something, oh, by the way, I know these are all you work on with Brooke, actually. They just are all going to weave together a little bit. And then 3, how can you sell within that? And I mean that very specifically. We're going to look at, rather than just going, okay, now work with me, we're going to like weave in you guys very clearly diagnosing in your content what is happening and what is missing for a person who's reading this piece, which is an easy sale without you ever having to say, come work with me now. Okay. And so that's really what I mean by sales, actually clearly diagnosing the thing and just saying it without worrying about it. Okay. Brooke, did you want to interrupt me for a second?
No, you're good.
Oh.
I love it.
You want to know something really funny? This is off topic, but I actually ate shit on Wednesday afternoon. Like all of my legs are like covered in like bleeding bruises and stuff like that. And I keep trying to find a way to sit in this chair that's not like causing me pain.
Oh no.
I know, I was like a little kid, not topic, but it's true. All right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to share my screen now. Let's do this. Okay. You guys have done packaging, right? In BBL so far. Cool. So all we're going to do, I'm just sharing like a whiteboard. Can everyone see the whiteboard? You can't see my like ugly Facebook behind it, can you? Okay, good. So all we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the packaging you guys have already put together. Okay. And we're just going to get very, very clear so that when you're writing your messaging, we're all doing it on brand. Again, remember, one of the goals is that everything weaves together really, really easily. Okay. So, excuse me, I hate to like do this because Brooke, I actually don't remember how you teach this. I'm just going to do it. And like, if Brooke, you want to chime in and be like, guys, this is like how when we did this, so that people can feel the comparison. But anyway, we're going to take your client's timeline. I am not Brooke, so this is not going to be beautifully designed. Okay. And the beginning point here is like, you know, what everyone says. This is the beginning shithole of your client's journey. Okay. I want you to know something. You guys have done something like this in BBL, correct? Where you do the beginning and the end of the shit, or the shit and then the glorious end of the journey. Okay. I want you to notice something. When people do this very often, what we don't realize we're doing is we mix symptoms on different levels. Okay. So let me just give you an example. Let's say the beginning of my client's journey is, hold on, I have to do this incorrectly. The beginning of my client's journey, she is making no money. She's been in business for like 2 years. She's probably under $2,000 a month or lower. She is like fighting with her partner. She is like working 16-hour days. She's always worried about sales. She's constantly exhausted, blah, 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 blah. Okay. What people tend to forget is that we tend to say things like, on the same level, we'll go like, oh, she's working 16-hour days. She feels stuck. And we say them like that's all part of the same thing, but they're not. Okay. There's layers to her pain. And I hate to say it like that, but it's true. Okay. So the surface is all the shit that she can see. And I hate to use myself as an example here, but if we were using the day that my ex-boyfriend called me and I didn't know what was happening, this would be the surface stuff. He called me one day. I'm just going to go full on the story here. Okay. He called me one day, literally I was driving and I answered the phone and started blabbing about my day, because that's normally what happened when he called me. And he got really frustrated at me when I got, cause I have a little bit of road rage, cause it's the only time I really get mad at people. So I was like, you fucker, as I'm driving. And he goes, oh, and gets really angry. And I said, what? And he was like, it just drives me crazy when you are driving and talking to me. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry. I can pull over in a minute. Just give me 5 minutes and I'll call you back. And he goes, okay. Okay. That was all the shit that like happened on the surface. There is absolutely nothing there that seems weird unless you knew that it was weird, right? Like if I had said that to a relationship coach at the time, she might've been like, oh, well, there was probably this going on and this going on and this going on. Those are all the layers. Okay. So like what was happening beneath that? He was getting really, really frustrated. Okay. The layer right below this is usually like thoughts and feelings. Okay. So he was getting really, really frustrated. Or I was getting frustrated. This isn't right. I should have done it like he was being coached, not me. He was getting really frustrated. He was feeling like it's all the thoughts and feelings that we're not always aware are still perceptions. Okay. Like he's pissed that I'm on the phone and yelling fucker while I'm trying to talk to him. That's not the deeper level, but that's like the first thought that occurs to him. Are you guys with me on that one? Okay, cool. This next layer is like the deeper reason. Like when you kind of take a big breath and you're like, you know what? You know what it's like? It's like when you're in the pub with your girlfriend and you're like, how's your day? And she goes, and there's this, and there's this, and there's this, and there's this, and there's this. And then like after 10 minutes of her saying that, she kind of takes a deep breath and she goes, you know what the real fucking problem is? That moment, that's level 3. Okay. So he might've been like, you know, what's really bothering me is that like, I feel like you have never have time for me or something like that. Right. The very last level, this is the one that all my coaches in here are like, oh, I know this level. This is the one where like, I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. You know, like the real deepest thing. I heard a man called Maston Kipp, I don't know how many of you are familiar with him, once say that this description was like having heart surgery, right? Like if someone came to a doctor and said, my heart's really hurting, I need surgery. I know that's not how it happens, okay? But they were like, okay, and then they poked like the skin and they were like, there, you're fixed. Okay. That's not how heart surgery works, right? They cut through the skin and the bone and the muscle and blah, blah, blah. And then they get to the heart and then they have to sew it right back up. Okay. That's what you're doing here. So when you think of your, sorry, I don't know where my mouse went. When you think of your beginning, the shithole of your client's journey. And by the way, I don't know if Brooke, you do it like this, but I always think of like the first little section here as like all of your free content. Yeah. And then like after this is probably like your, you know, to use Mel's word, level 1 offers, like your free offers or your low cost offers or something like that. This is probably your signature program here. And this is probably your long-term mentorship. Okay. Or like long-term group program or however you do sort of the longer term high-end work. Okay. But anyway, this is the beginning of shithole. This is the end, beautiful, amazing life. And you know, God walks among this shit, but we got to be thinking of it in terms of these layers. Are you guys with me so far? Cool. When we do messaging, hold on, let me make sure I'm not jumping the gun. Any questions on what I'm saying? This is making sense so far. This is simple. Is this true? Like, don't be afraid to ask, but I feel like so far we're okay. Is that true? Yeah? Okay, cool. So when we do messaging in half a second, we're actually going to just take this and we're going to reverse it. And by the way, that's how you do sales too. Okay. Anyway, so take a second. Literally, I want you guys just to think about this for a second. You don't have to like share or anything like that unless you feel so called, but take a look at, you know, the kind of packaging work you've done before, what you may be working on, what you're currently selling, by the way. You can still get clearer on that. I just revamped my own program like literally yesterday. And just think, what is the shithole she's sitting in when she first gets to you? And what's the result at the end? And take a look at the couple things you write and see if you can't put them in like order. Okay. The topmost shit first, the most surfacey stuff where she's not realizing what's going on and what's actually going on beneath it. And we're going to do something really cool with that in a second. So just take like maybe, is like 2 minutes enough? I know that's not tons of times, but just so that we're not, yeah, take 2 minutes and I'll sing the Jeopardy song to myself. Actually, you know what? We have Jasmine in here. Why don't I sing, I can show you the world. I'm just kidding. Let's take like 2 more seconds and give me a look when you have a stopping place. Jasmine. I also don't know what bit paper is. What is that? Brooke? Do you know what that is? No, I have no idea. Okay. All right.
Smoking, but with the vape. The vape.
Oh, bit paper is a vape?
Vaping, like smoking.
No, I know what vaping is. I didn't know what bit paper was.
Oh.
Online whiteboard with conference abilities. Got you. Yeah, except for my online whiteboards always look like piles of shit. I used to have a nice whiteboard. Brooke, do you remember it? Where I draw on the whiteboard? But because I moved office spaces, I haven't mounted the whiteboard. I don't know if I want to, because I feel like I want to put a vision board there because it'll be more inspirational. But I obviously haven't done anything with either of them. So, okay. You don't have to, but does anyone want to share a couple of things they have for the shithole? Yeah, go for it. I can't tell what your name is because it won't show me on Zoom, but go for it. Yes, you.
I was like, I can't see anybody else, so I didn't know if you were talking.
Debbie. Now Zoom's telling me. Are you Debbie?
Yes.
Hi, Debbie. It's nice to meet you. Go for it.
Okay, so we're explaining the layers of pain of our ideal client, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so do I need to explain who my ideal client is to you first?
I feel like we're going to find out in 3 seconds when you say it. Try it. Just try it. If I need clarification, I'll ask.
Okay, so the surface is that they need to make money while staying at home. Okay.
While staying at home, you said?
What?
You said while staying at home?
Yes.
Sweet. Okay.
Okay. But the surfacey is they might feel pressure from their spouse or pressure for their financial situation. And then deeper, they feel inadequate, like maybe they don't have the skills to get a higher paying job outside the home. And then the last layer would be self-doubt.
Sweet. The middle one was skills, right?
The third one?
Yes.
Was like they felt inadequate and like they didn't have the skills or yeah.
Cool. All right. That's pretty good. I like that.
Okay.
Now what I'm wondering, okay, here's what we're gonna do. I'm kind of jumping around in my notes, but because you're being bold, I'm gonna bold Brandy. How that's funny. Because you're being bold, I'm gonna pick on you for a second. Are you down with that?
Sure.
Sweet. So what I want to know, here's what we're gonna do, okay? Because with any of these sort of layers, I'm about to confuse you guys so much, okay? If I go too fast with this next one, just let me know, okay? But with any of these layers, there's an opportunity for you to write amazing content that helps people, okay? Because all you got to do is tell me what's actually happening in any particular situation. So let me give you an example, okay? With pressure, feeling pressure from the spouse, because that one feels really good. That's like an amazing example, okay? And there's so many different ways that this probably shows up. Sometimes maybe the spouse is doing it on purpose and being a dick. Sometimes they probably aren't even meaning to. Sometimes it's like completely me and he's only responding to me. Sometimes it's completely him and I'm only responding, right? There's probably many ways that shows up. What I would love to hear from you is, can you give me, it doesn't even have to be real, by the way, an example of what pressure from spouse might look like? Like I wake up in the morning and what happens?
Maybe he picks a fight about the money that you spent from the day before.
Cool. Okay, sweet. So he wakes up and he's like, checks the credit card statement because of course he's so stressed. He opens his phone first thing in the morning and he's like, baby, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, what? Now, here's what's funny is I feel like there's a lot of ways you could take this, but I feel like if it was me, my first reaction if I was feeling pressure from him would be to like kind of skirt the truth or like try to over explain it. Does your client tend to do that sometimes?
Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm put up against the wall, like you're not getting a real answer out of me for a minute, okay? Anyway, so he puts me up against the wall and I say something stupid. What might I say?
You might say, I don't have to ask your permission to spend money.
I like that one. Okay, cool. So they're now having like a really stupid conversation where nothing is real. What's happening beneath that? Like, why did I say, I don't have to ask your permission, and get all like kind of feminist on it?
Because I don't know.
We've kind of already said it, if I'm honest.
They feel inadequate.
Yeah. But here's this is perfect, okay? Because what we don't want to do when we're talking about epic content is skip a step.
Okay.
Because what will happen if we skip a step, and you know what I mean by that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because if I skip a step, people suddenly don't understand it anymore, and they think you're just making bullshit. Okay,
Right.
It's a weird psychological phenomenon. We just got to deal with it. Okay, so we just can't skip a step. So it's my immediate thought is not that I'm inadequate. My immediate thought is he's being a dick, and I shouldn't have to explain myself to him.
True.
Right? What's my second thought?
He thinks I'm whatever. He's I mean, like, he thinks I'm stupid, or he thinks I'm lazy, or he thinks I'm whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you kind of start stamping your foot and like, I am not lazy, and you start like listing all the reasons why you should be making more money or be fine or whatever.
Right.
I love this. What's the next one? What's my next thought?
How can I prove to him that I'm not?
Awesome. Cool. Go a little bit further. You're almost to the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do I prove to him that I'm not? And then the next thought is, what can I do?
Cool.
Like, you know, what can I do to fix this, or to make more money, or whatever?
Sweet. And what, let me just ask you this, because I feel like it'll help you close it out really well. What is it that you do?
I'm sorry, say that again. What
is it that you do? How do you support your clients?
I teach them how to sell on eBay.
Ooh. Okay, cool. And I'm jumping the gun a little bit here too, but we'll just use it as an example. What is one way that you help your clients make money on eBay? What's one core piece that they have to really learn and understand and master?
What to sell.
Okay,
how to
cool.
find things to sell.
I love this, but I'm gonna question a little bit that it has anything to do with our story. So what's something that has to do with the story of her waking up, having this horrible moment with her husband who doesn't trust her, and she's all doubting herself, and she gets to this level of like, crap, like I have pressure from him and I have to figure this shit out. What would be sort of the first thing you would teach that woman to support her to make money?
I would teach her how to find something within her house right now that she could sell today.
Sweet. Brilliant. Cool. So the lesson of this story might be, you know what? This is not about him or me. It's about the fact that I'm feeling pressure and I'm responding to it really badly, when really I could just take a breath, find something to sell, and this problem would be over. Is that true?
Yeah.
Cool. So do you see how she just like went down in the layers, and she was like being a little bit more real about what was actually happening? Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. Do you see how I pulled it out of you a little bit? I'm sorry about that. But do you see how we went, okay, cool. What is Debbie's solution to this particular issue? Right? It's not to yell back at the husband. Like when I think about, again, I'm going to use my stupid romantic example. When I think about what my ex-boyfriend said all that shit to me, I remember that conversation very well. And you know what? I kept responding to what he was saying, which at the time made perfect sense, right? I'm hearing something and I'm responding to it. But because what was happening had nothing to do with what he was actually saying to me, it wasn't helping, okay? Because you are the expert, Debbie, and all of you are the expert, you got to respond with like the real issue, not the surfacey shit. Okay. And if we're talking about helping your client understand, and this one's definitely for Jasmine, who was asking why what you're teaching is actually going to support something when they might not even know what they're looking for. That kind of trick is to go, okay, cool. Do you see how this stupid shit you're experiencing day to day? Do you see how this thing that I teach solves all those problems? Cool. Then you're good, right? Do you feel how easy that can be?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, sweet. Cool. So let's take what all the example that I just gave and like actually just like break down what just happened. Okay. So wait, hold on. I can't write with a pen on the bamboo. Okay. So Debbie had all her layers. Okay. And we get down to the bottom, and I'm going to call it the piece. Okay. And what I asked her was, what is the thing that she would teach her client to immediately solve all these surface issues? Okay. So when we know this, we basically just go backwards. This looks like the weirdest, grossest like drawing ever of like fertility in, I don't know, some country. But when you go backwards out of the thing, I was kind of making fun of myself, but it doesn't matter. That was actually really rude of me. You do the exact same thing backwards that we did going down. Okay. But you can do it a lot faster. And we're just going to use a really simple phrase. It's going to be called so that. Okay. It ends up looking like this. And I'm going to give an example, and then I'm going to have you guys do it in a second. Okay. In my work, okay, one of the things I teach my clients and support them through is messaging So that, by the way, people who come to me saying they need to work on their messaging, I never fucking buy it. The reason is very simple. People self-diagnose, okay? The same way I started this saying, is your number one priority to create more content? No, your number one priority is to make money, build a sustainable business, and serve people, right? So that's what people really actually care about. They don't care so much about the messaging. That's what people say in sales all the time, right? But I just got to help people understand that the messaging is what supports that, okay? So I'm going to say, like, in my work, I work on messaging with you. So that, and I'm not going to skip any layers here, okay? So that you get very clear on what you do, how you say it, and how people understand it, so that you can have really powerful conversations with your clients, so that people hear, see, and understand what you're doing, so that you can so easily make sales and serve and support your people, okay? So I'm just going like in the layers backwards, and I'm saying so that, okay? In order to do that, we need to know what your pieces are. So we're going to go back to packaging really, really quickly. Okay. So Brooke, is everyone in here working on like a specific like offer?
I think so.
Yeah. Everyone has like a specific offer. Like I'm working really hard to sell my one-on-one or my group or whatever. Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's do that one for today. Okay. So if it's your one-on-one, your group, whatever. Okay. I'm just outlining where it would be on this timeline. Okay. I just want you to really quickly, and if you have them, you guys probably have these pretty quickly if you've already done them with Brooke. But like, what are the top 3 things that you either teach or support people to move through? And that's really for my coaches in here. Okay. Because a lot of times you're not just teaching people stuff. You need them to move through certain ideas and stuff on a journey. Okay. But what are the top 3 or 4 pieces that you work on with people? Just jot them down really quickly. Okay. So for me, it would be, just for today, packaging, messaging, and sales. Okay. Brooke, what are yours? I don't know why I'm calling you out, but I feel like it.
Messaging, personality, and translation onto the internet. Translation is the word that I use a lot.
I love that. That's why we're besties. I'm just kidding. Did I tell you that my boyfriend did your archetype quiz and thought it was the best thing on the planet Earth?
Yeah, you told me. That's awesome.
I was like, baby, can you do this right now? Like, I feel like it'll help you. And he was like, oh my God, this is so me. He had a story because he got Ruler and he got like Rolex and Amex and I don't remember the brands you had up there. And he literally had a story about every single one of the 4 brands that you had up there. He was like, oh, I worked so hard once for this Rolex. I think it was Porsche. He owned a Porsche at one point. He has an Amex. Like, it was just him to a T. It was very funny.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So do we all have like our 3 or 4 pieces? Is anyone really struggling to like identify and pinpoint what their pieces are? Anyone struggling? No?
A little bit for me, just because, yeah, the piece, it's basically, I don't know, maybe I need to just talk it out.
Go.
So I support them working through their mentality of being able to, or being qualified to run a business.
Okay.
I teach them how to automate, but keep it true. So it's not like, robot spam.
Yeah.
And that they, I don't know, I'm struggling with the third one.
What's the end result? Like when someone's worked with you through this particular program, not your whole journey, but this particular program, what do they walk away knowing or doing?
Basically that they don't have to hide their chronic illness. Ooh. That they can have a business and be truthful about their chronic illness without having to make up crazy stories all the time.
Ooh, that is cool. Okay, cool. Can you just, I hate to ask you this, but do you think you could describe it in a positive way? Because what I heard you say was they don't have to.
Okay. So they can be truthful and incorporate all of themselves in their business.
Yeah, cool. So they get to, I just have this vision of, this is so silly, but I watched this movie Little last night. By the way, it was a funny movie, but like, I feel like they messed up hardcore because some of the scenes didn't make any sense, but it was funny. You guys should watch it. But anyway, there's a moment where she's a little girl, but she's actually like a 38-year-old woman. And she says, I didn't realize that I could win and still be myself. She goes, I thought I had to be one or the other. She goes, now I realize, and I thought it was ridiculous because I'm like, there's no way you realize that in a day. But anyway, that she could be fully herself and run her business and win. Is that kind of what you're describing?
Yeah, pretty much.
Great. Okay, cool. I think there's probably a sexier way to say that. We'll get you one by the end of today. But I'm wondering if it's not something along the lines of like being all of yourself and having a business, or even like leading exactly as you are. Brooke, do you remember, was it Chantel Adams who like, do you remember her? She was like on stage.
Yep.
And she said, she was like, whoever you are off stage, should be who you are on stage. It should just be bigger. Meaning like, you don't have to like be like me. And I'm obviously a very loudmouth, confident person, right? You don't have to be like that on stage if that's not how you are. You just have to be more of what you are on stage, which is also kind of reminding me of you a little bit, Jasmine. Okay, but anyway, I heard you say, you know, the pieces or what she really needs to move through is really becoming confident in her ability to run a business, creating more like human automation. Yeah. And maybe the third one is that be a leader exactly as she is, sort of mentality. Okay. You can play with those words, but that feels like the big three pieces. Is that true? Sweet. Anyone else? I like finding pieces. Yeah. I'm sorry. I can't see what your name is, but just unmute yourself and blab away at us, girl.
It's okay. It's Tammy. And hi. So I run a medical practice management company.
Ooh, cool.
And so I help providers streamline their business with using different software and systems.
Yeah.
So I missed the beginning and I apologize. But so I'm kind of like falling in. And so maybe that's why I can't do it, is because I missed the intro piece to it. So I guess that's why I'm struggling, but
I hear you. Can I ask you, just because I'm not overly familiar with the medical field, I just want to make sure I'm really understanding. And I'm going to put it in a very weird term. Are you very much like a business consultant or strategist or even an OBM to that profession?
I would say consultant.
Consultant?
I do consulting as part of my business, so yes.
Cool. And why do they come to you? What are they like complaining about?
They're complaining about time, electronic health records, not being easy to use, things like that, billing, and how much time it takes. I mean, time is their big. The thing that I'm trying to take from them are the time sucks that every medical office has. So
yeah. Is there anything, this one's really, really basic and kind of painful, but is there anything like missing info? Like they kind of miss the boat on certain things? People fall through the cracks. Does that ever happen with them?
Not really. It's just their systems that suck. And I mean, doctors don't have time to fill out paperwork. Yeah. And that's kind of where I come in, is to do that for them. So.
And then one last question. Well, for a second, the end result is that they have more time, but I'm wondering, does it go even bigger than that? Like if they have really good systems like overtime, does that not easily make them more money? And
it does, because then they're able to see more patients in the same amount of time that they were before, because now they're not spending, or not only are they able to see more patients, but then or they can spend more quality time with their patients.
Yeah, exactly. And so better results, right?
Right.
Sweet. Okay. I love that. Okay, cool. So I think you probably have two options. I mean, you have many options. Okay. But just like for me, I would say you could get really nitty gritty on like the things that you have. This is the thing when we're talking about pieces, actually, everybody, is that it's different for everybody, right? Like if you go on my website right now and you look at like book paying clients, which is largely kind of where this conversation is coming from, you would see I say like 5 or 6 pieces. But the thing is when someone comes to me and she's pretty solid on like one of the pieces, I don't have to do it with her. So it's like, you know, it's really just to cover all your bases, but you're always going to be kind of working differently with different clients and doctors, right? So you have two options. What you could do is you could think of all the things that you would work on with someone. And I actually would do that just like for your own brain, because what you might find is that like as you're writing out all the things that you have done with clients in the past or could see yourself doing if they had certain problems, it's really illuminating sometimes to see the number of tools you have in your box and like what it is that you see that is so easy for you to see that other people don't. A lot of times when we're doing like this messaging stuff, we make things really complicated because we think that like the obvious thing to us in 3 seconds is not really that valuable, but we forget that other people don't see that shit, right? So like you don't even realize how many years I went teaching messaging without doing this diagram because I thought it was fucking obvious. Anyway, you could write out all your things. And then you could just pull out the ones that you think are the most powerful. But really, if the main core, that's all option 1. If the main core though, option 2, is that what you really do is streamline doctor's offices and medical offices that are having a hard time, because of quality of time, because of the amount of work that they can physically do, then I think that's enough, because it kind of encompasses everything, right? It's like me saying messaging. Like there's 1,000 things we could cover when we're talking about messaging, but like it could be enough. So I think you have those options. And what I would do if I were you, Tammy, is just like, and please, anyone, when I say something like this to you, please don't spend hours doing this. I mean it to be the easiest exercise you ever did in your life. Okay. But spend like 20 minutes just writing down all the things you've ever done. Be like, oh my God, one time I helped someone with their, CRM, and they sent out automated emails, and just how much time that saved them. Right. Or, oh, we sat down and we realized like they were paying like $25 an hour for someone to enter numbers when they could have done it much cheaper and faster with an automated system, things like that. Okay. Does that help a little bit?
A little bit, yeah.
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 Ask me another question. I feel like we're not there yet.
Oh, Brooke, we've struggled about my whole business in this anyway, so it's just getting there because I have so many moving pieces and so many different systems and
she has a lot of different offers and different ideal clients. I think doing this will help. It might take you a little longer than 15 minutes because I feel like if you do this stuff for each different person or offer, however you want to break it up, you can get there. I'm going to take up everybody's time just trying to figure this out for me. So you've helped. I can take this and go with the different things. And mine is very complex and convoluted. So, but the same concepts are still going to work though. So just like,
they will. I just have to piece them and do it for each one. So I have more homework than everybody else.
I'm going to just like inspirational speech it for 3 seconds just because I feel called to, and it may not help, but this goes for everybody, is that, I probably have the simplest business model on the planet as it is right now, but I have to tell you how many times I've like overcomplicated things. And it's not to say that you are overcomplicating things, Tammy. It's just to be conscious of what is the number one priority. Right. And so, if I was honest about all the moving parts that I have in my business, or all the people I'm trying to serve, or this like thing I'm trying to do, or that thing I'm trying to do, like when it starts getting overwhelming, honestly, just taking like a deep breath and leaning back in your chair and going, okay, wait, what's the first thing? You get things done a lot faster that way. And I would also say, I don't know if this feels like it's true, but don't be a perfectionist about it. Like you are, I guarantee you, so valuable when you open your mouth for 3 seconds that people get thousands of dollars of value out of it. And so it doesn't need to be that you had everything figured out before you started doing it.
Yeah. No, I understand that completely.
Yeah. Sweet. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. If I can help anymore, like, please feel free to keep piping up. I don't even care how complicated it is. Okay. That's your challenge. But yeah, does this, so far, is this helping everyone? Are we seeing how your pieces are important because we can write content just by explaining each one in a different scenario, exactly like Debbie did. But here's the other cool thing, okay? What we're gonna do is we're gonna think of content in 2 ways. Excuse me, that coffee just didn't like me very much. Anyway, we're gonna think of writing content in 2 ways, okay? I want you to think of it like your pieces and the shit levels that are and why, okay? And we're also going to think about it in terms of the things that you teach and why. Okay, I shouldn't have said pieces on the first one. We're going to think about it in terms of the shit levels and why they exist, or the result levels and why they exist, but those surfacey things. Okay, so starting up here, or we can think about it in terms of the pieces and why they solve the shit levels. In both cases, you're going to end up with content that's very similar. But I really find that on different days, different ones actually work for me. But if we're talking about creating a big body of work, it's really valuable to think of it this way. I'm going to show you what I mean. Actually, I think I can stop sharing this. Let me just double check that really quickly. Yeah. Does everyone, I mean, you guys remember what the little blurby fat thing looks like, right? I can shut it down. Okay, cool. Okay. When you're thinking about things, let's do pieces first because I feel like it's easier. Okay. When you're thinking about like writing content, you got to be thinking about it in terms of those pieces. Firstly, when you guys do your sales pages, you guys have done sales pages already, have you? Or are they coming up? A little bit?
Yeah, we've started on writing copy a little bit, but
Okay.
mostly for home and about page so far.
Sweet. And have you done sales yet?
Nope, next week.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Then this is all perfect timing. So when you're thinking about sales pages and sales and all this kind of stuff, this is exactly this is all you're physically doing. Okay. You're going to take the piece that you work on with someone and you're going to explain why it works, but you got to be doing it like you can do it in a broad sense or in a little sense. I'll give you 2 examples. Okay. Let's say we're talking about streamlining your business so that you don't have clients falling through the cracks and that you have more time. Okay. That is one big, beautiful, giant concept. Does that sound overwhelming to anyone to write about? Has anyone tried to sit down and write a piece like that and like it ends up being like 80 miles long and never makes any sense and it was absolute shit by the time you were done? You guys should go look at some of the blog posts I wrote like 5 years ago. Like I dare you, they're still on my website. It's actually hysterical to read some of them because it's like, what the fuck were you even talking about, Sarah? Like it was, what the problem is you're trying to treat too big of a topic in one thing. That's the problem. I had a friend in grad school, so I have a sound engineering degree, and he did his entire thesis on the idea that when we have less tools, we make better music. I don't know how many of you guys realize there's like all these different compressors and there's all these different things. And he basically argued that having that many tools at our disposal meant we were like getting pulled in too many directions and we couldn't actually focus in. And that whole concept where I said like lean back and go, what's the first thing? That's what we really want to talk about. Okay. So if you have that big piece, you guys all have them now, right? Messaging, packaging, sales, which was mine. Okay. I want you to take one of them and zoom in for a second. Okay. You can think about this in 2 different ways. The first one is you can zoom in and think about what are the pieces that make up that piece, right? Like if I want to teach my clients messaging, what's one tool I have in my arsenal to do that? This client timeline with your pieces is one example, right? I also have something that I literally wrote a lot of content on called the orgasm principle, which you guys will enjoy someday because it's very funny. Okay. But you could zoom in and say, well, what tools do I have at my disposal to get that piece? Okay. And if the pieces you wrote down, by the way, were more about steps on your client's journey rather than you teaching things, that's still okay. You can think about the tiny microscopic things that happen in that journey. Okay. Like if one of the things I want my clients to really understand is that people are acting out of reciprocity, because that is something I teach, right? The way that I speak is going to change the way that other people speak to me. Okay. And that's really important. Then I can still use that as an example. Okay. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is, without zooming in too much, think of an example of that piece in action. Okay, let's do messaging again. Let me think of something that actually just happened recently. Ooh, I have an example, although it's kind of off topic, but I had a client come to me the other day and we'd been working on messaging and we'd been getting all her stories together, and I assigned her to write a couple of pieces, and she sent me one of her pieces and it was actually very good. But the problem, if there was a problem with it, was that it wouldn't have sold anything, because that's not true. That was unfair. I'm just saying it wasn't the strongest piece she ever wrote. And the problem was actually really simple. It was because she had understood conceptually what we'd been talking about in messaging, but she hadn't actually fully seen what it looked like for her yet. So she was still kind of like not totally zoomed in and she was skipping steps. So she was really understanding. She's smart. She got the concept, but she hadn't fully embodied that message yet. Okay. And that was the only issue. So I could tell that story, right? With those stories, all you're going to do, I shouldn't have taken that whiteboard away because I really just want to doodle on the thing again. Okay. But all you're going to do is you're going to just tell the layers until you get to the piece. Okay. I feel like this is easier an example. So I'm going to give you an example like my client, the story I just gave you. Say this is me typing up a Facebook post to be published. Okay. Once upon a time, a client, let me give her a funny name. Andrea. That's not a funny name, but that's her name now. Anyway, once upon a time, a client named Andrea came to me. She came to me because she was really struggling to translate her work into the world. She was so good at what she did. She was really psychic, full of magic, absolutely wonderful, could make magical transformations for people when they were in the room with her. But she was struggling to book clients from the online space because she couldn't be in that room. And she felt like because she couldn't be in the room, people weren't getting the magic from her very easily, and she needed to be able to say it in a way that people understood. And she got all choked up every time she's tried to write because, you know, and I could go down until there were all the fears and things like that. Okay. So we sat down together and we worked on her pieces, and we got her a couple of stories, and she wrote them, and they were really good. However, the problem was still there, that she actually couldn't get people to take her up on the offer yet, because while she really understood the concept, she needed time for the mastery to come in. So we worked over a period of time, and we kept just like narrowing in a little bit more and more and more and more until her writing was so clean and so powerful. She put it out there, and every time she did, people reached out to her and said, "Oh my God, you're awesome." Okay. So all I did there was I told like the shit part of the story was the first part, right? I mentioned what we worked on, and I said why it changed it. Okay. Shit, piece. That's why I said get your pieces, yeah? And explaining why it changed it. Okay? And everything I said 5 minutes ago about, you know, figuring out where you want to start is just to help your brain go. Okay? Your content's still going to be the same. It's just sometimes it's easier to think in terms of your pieces. Sometimes you're looking at it and you go, "Oh my God, I haven't spoken about messaging in my fucking Facebook page for weeks." That's not cool. Messaging's such a big part of my work. Let me talk about it. Okay? So sometimes it's like that. And sometimes, and this is where I get a lot of my ideas, things just happen on the street that inspire you. And you're like, you know what? If I had worked with that person, that would have been different. And you can kind of rant, if you will, like that way. Robin, Brooke's laughing because I literally write content like that all the time. I'm like, one time, if you guys follow me on Facebook, you'll see it. I'll be like, the other day, my man said something to me stupid, and there was a business lesson in it. Like, it's weird, but it works. Okay. So when you're looking at your piece, or excuse me, when you're looking at your content, okay, we want to talk about you getting it all on brand and everything wonderful like that. But as long as you're really starting with this packaging idea of what it is that you're working on and why it's actually changing things, then it really works and flows very well. Is this making sense? Okay, cool. I want to challenge you before I move on to write. I want no one, is anyone freaking out here about like, how do I physically do this? No one's freaking out yet? Okay, good. I don't want you to worry. You are, Lucy? Okay. I don't want you to worry about that just yet. Okay, because I'm going to answer that in 2 seconds. But before we get there, and it'll be the last thing because I know this is so much information. Okay, but the last thing, what does AFK mean? I have no idea what that means. Okay, I'm like too old apparently for like slang that I don't understand. I never even knew BRB. I had to Google it when I was a kid. I actually Googled BRB. People kept saying it to me and I was like, burp? I was like 15 years old and I didn't understand it. Okay. Anyway, don't worry about how to do this just yet. Okay, we'll do a couple examples in a second. But what I want you to do just for literally 2 minutes is think about some things that you'd love to be able to write about. Okay, like, oh my God, I had this story the other day and I feel like it would be brilliant to explain this piece I work on. Or, oh my God, I need more pieces on this piece. Sorry, I shouldn't have used piece twice. Okay, or I need more posts on this piece. Just take a second, think about what you've been putting out there, what you haven't, what you've been thinking about putting out there or whatever. I'll even like share some of my ideas lately with you because maybe you guys will think they're funny and inspirational. Ooh, yeah. Away from keyboard, by the way. That's what that means. No wonder she didn't explain it. While you guys are thinking, I want to just be very clear here. A lot of times this is difficult to do, to come up with ideas like this, or it's difficult to implement them. Okay. Don't get freaked out by either one. I don't know how much like time you've tried to do messaging or get good at content or whatever, but like this is a process. Just like my client who like understood conceptually what it was, but it took her some time. Like that's totally fine. Or like give yourself enough space that this is like maybe a 2 or 3 month project for you to like get better and better and better at this. Okay. It can be faster than that, but also doesn't matter how good of a writer you were. Literally does not mean shit. The people who are the best content writers tend to be the best at their job. So if you're really good when you have clients, you're probably really good at this, okay? Okay, do you guys want to hear some of the ideas I've come up with lately? Will this be fun and entertaining? Yeah, just a couple. Okay, I'm gonna tell you two because I think that they're helpful. One is for my, especially my coaches, but I think this works for anybody, service providers as well. But I actually get a lot of content ideas from my journals. And the reason is because when you're journaling, you're usually working really hard to figure out what happened and why. And then you're very conscious of like what you did to change something. Right. And so one piece that I'm actually working on right now is it doesn't really have a name yet, but it's about what changed in my business when I realized that I'd been going for a really, really long time, just going sale to sale. And really just getting kind of stuck in that and not having time for anything else and getting frustrated because I kept going sale to sale. And that's amazing when you know you can make sales very quickly, but it's actually frustrating over time because you're always kind of going, oh, the next one, and you're not really getting any breathing room. So I'm writing a whole piece where I'm like, this was the problem. This is why I was sick of it. And this is what I did to change it. And here's what that looked like over time. Right. And and I've already shared it with a couple of people and they're like, oh, it's great because it's very nice to see physically what was happening for someone. Another one that I think it's kind of funny, but again, you can turn anything into a post, was I had somebody, it was 2 years ago, and it was a client, which was so crazy for me at the time, but it was a client who she was explaining to me how she worked. Because what she did was so unusual that if we wanted to work on her messaging, I had to understand what she was doing because she couldn't explain it. So she was doing it on me, basically. And how she worked was, she was one of those beautiful energy reader people where she wasn't quite psychic, but she could feel where there was a lot of energy on something. And I said, well, what do you mean? She's like, because then she's like, I'm neutralizing the energy so it doesn't freak people out as much, basically. She's basically like Susan Brooke, but just slightly different. Anyway, so she was like, well, Sarah, I heard you use the word, because I'd been explaining messaging a second earlier. And I'd said, really good messaging, when we get you there, you're going to feel a lot more confident because you can say what you do. That changes your confidence instantaneously, right? And she was like, well, I heard you say confident a few minutes ago. So like, hold on, 10 years ago, you decided to be confident. Oh, wow, that's really weird. Okay, so I'd feel you say the word confident. And then and then she starts explaining what she would do if confident was a problem for me. And I actually interrupted her and I went, I'm sorry, did you actually just do your work on me? She goes, well, yeah, I mean, I had to demonstrate it. She goes, is it true? Did you decide to be confident 10 years ago? And I added up and I realized that I was speaking to her in September 2018. I realized that in August 2008, which is when I went to college, I actually remember where I was sitting. I was a freshman in college and I really wanted to dance on the hip hop crew. And I had the flyer in my arms and I was like, no way could I ever get on this team. Like, no fucking way. And I just had this moment where I was like, fuck this, Sarah. Like, you're an adult now. You're not at your old high school. No one knows who you are. You're just stop it. And I remember folding the flyer and putting it on my desk and walking out the door and being like, I don't even give a shit anymore. And I actually did decide to be confident. It was really bizarre. So anyway, I use this as a story because not only is it a moment for me to be vulnerable, by the way, those are sometimes the best stories, but also because it helped explain how we can translate something that's very difficult to explain work-wise into really powerful messaging. So it was kind of a cool story. But anyway, you can come up with stories about literally anything. It only matters that you're explaining what you're doing pretty well, okay? Which we're going to do in a second. Does everyone have a couple of story ideas? You're like, oh my God, this could be fun. This could be interesting. Oh my God, I used the name Andrea earlier, but I didn't realize there was actually an Andrea on the call. Do you say Andrea or Andrea? Andrea? Okay, cool. Do you want to share anything, Andrea? Because I feel like called over to your corner a little bit right now. Okay, hold on. Can I unmute you or can you? Yeah, you undo it. I don't think I can do it. Go for it, girl. I'm also sorry I used that name as a joke earlier.
That's really okay.
Not see your
I say
name.
Andrea, so it's not even the same name to me. Well, the vulnerability part, like a lot of my stories. So what I wrote, what would I love to be able to write about, and something that I've noticed the more I share. A lot of my direction is coming from my own stories with anxiety and self-doubt and insecurity. And that's where I want to help coaches understand that where their anxieties and insecurities are actually really coming from, and that you don't have to buy into that. You don't have to wait to feel better to do anything.
Yeah.
And it's all our brain lying to us and all of that. And so a lot of what I want to write about and where I feel there's a lot of connection is just the humanity in our own anxiety, and that everybody feels it, and just making it, it's not personal. So we make it so for 20 years, I made it very personal and about me, and I suffered and struggled heavily because of it. And I don't anymore, because I have a totally new understanding about it. So yeah, so when you said like moments that you've been vulnerable can create great stories, is where I really see that coming through for me. And anytime I've shared that on my Instagram, that's where I get the most connection. And when other people share it, that's where I'm like, yeah, me too, me too, me too. Like, yes, 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 me too. So I love that. I think that's, and getting a lot of ideas from my journals, that's where I'm actually going back into my journals. And one great example was like, I berated myself all the time for not being strong enough. Like, that's where, like, why can't you just get through whatever I was going through at the time? I had some like health anxieties and stuff. And well, why can't I just be stronger than that person? Like, that person seems to be handling it better. So I resonate with that a lot, what you said with.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to say, just to add validity, but also maybe an idea for you. Two things. Firstly, I'm sure you realize this, okay? But I want you to, I don't know how much you're already owning it, but like, I'm asking you to shout it from the rooftops, is business causes anxiety for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Even people who never really struggled with it, or even like a little bit struggled with it, like it will completely blow it open, because it forces us to do something on our own.
Mm-hmm.
And requires a level of strength that we probably didn't even know that we had to find before. And so that's immediately anxiety inducing. And just even acknowledging that is something that I try to do a lot. Like, a lot of my clients are like, why do I feel like this? And it's like, no, like, this is very natural. Like, it was going to happen always. And so that could be really powerful for you, I think, maybe in your messaging. And the second thing is, when you are in anxiety, it's difficult to understand concepts, how they apply to you without examples.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult. People who have anxiety tend to be very, very smart and understand concepts quickly. The issue is that when you're in it, it's hard to see that you actually are part of this, and that it's not just a concept in space, but that like actually it applies. And so I think more personal stories on your part, or even stories of clients, they don't all have to be personal, but that could be game changing because of the nature of anxiety. We don't remember how to think clearly. We have to physically feel an example.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No.
It shows up in so many different ways that people don't connect. Like, I think there's a general idea of what anxiety can be, but it shows up in so many different ways that I think that's where I have to think about, how can I get my messaging to be clear, so that if somebody doesn't identify themselves as an anxious person, how can they still see that, well, this is still all, it's all the same, like self-doubt, lack of confidence, like not wanting to be visible. And the whole idea of business causing anxiety, for me, I had a business before and I had partners, and this coming an online business now, I mean, back in those days, there was no Facebook. YouTube was new. I mean, now, like, I didn't realize how hard it would be starting an online business, because I'd already had a business, but it's a whole new ball of anxiety, for sure.
For sure. Absolutely. And a lot of people could see you, which is weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had a post yesterday that I did not expect to go well, get like 200 reactions and like 50 comments in an hour. And I was not ready for it. I was like, what? You guys want to know? So like, there's a whole weird ballgame to it. And I just want to, this goes for everybody. I was going to give this at the end, but read people's posts who are doing this well. It'll game change it, because otherwise you're just staying in your head and you're not really seeing it in action. And I might be one of those, but one person I would really recommend for you, Andrea, is I have to type it in here, okay? Her name is Giordana Toca Shelley. Does anyone know who that is, by the way? No? Okay. No. I originally found Giordana Toca because of relationship coaching. She actually is one of the best heterosexual, okay, so she's a little heteronormative in her talking. But she's one of the best teachers on masculine and feminine energy I've ever encountered in my life. But her marketing is very good, because she has pieces where she will, and this is why I recommend it to you, Andrea. She has pieces where she will explain very surface level things and the deeper sort of self-doubt, anxiety, connection with oneself, etc. in such a beautifully, she doesn't skip steps. She can be a little in your face, like be prepared for that, okay? But she just does this kind of marketing very, very well. She really does. And she's one of those people that like will accept your friend request if she still has space, or you could follow her or something like that. I wouldn't go to her business page. She tends to be disorganized, very feminine. But it's good. Yeah. And that would be
Thank you.
cool. I also want to just acknowledge how hard it is sometimes to read your old journals. So I applaud you for doing that.
Oh yeah.
It's very difficult.
Very hard.
It's very hard. Yeah. I'm working on a book at the moment, and I've been putting it off for like 2 years, and I couldn't figure out why until about a month ago. And I realized it's because reading your old journals is really fucking difficult.
Yeah.
It's really hard. So it requires bravery that I'm impressed with in you. So good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sweet. Okay, cool. I'm glad I asked that question. All right. So this one's really for Lucy, but everybody, how do we physically do everything that we're talking about? Okay. I have a very simple structure. I'm going to give it to you, but what I want you to remember is that this takes practice. Please do not be that angry at yourself if it takes you a little time to master this. It's like, does anyone remember being like in the 3rd grade and they tried to teach you how to like write a story, and they were like introduction and then like 3 points, and then this is like the same thing. You're relearning how to write in a structure. And by the way, it's not just writing, it's talking. Okay. This applies to a sales conversation. This applies to when you're coaching people, etc. And I'll kind of say something on that at the very end, but just give yourself some time and space with it. Okay. The structure is very simple. I'm actually going to start on the second part of the structure. I'll tell you why in a second. So the second part, you can write number 2 and leave 1 extra line, is story. Yeah. When I say story, I mean any kind of physical example. I need to know what the surface level shit is. We've been talking about this for an hour. Hopefully you guys know what I'm talking about at this point. Okay. But the first, well, it's actually the second thing in a post, in a video, whatever, when you're I even do this when I'm teaching. Not so much today because it was a lot of content, but like it's very helpful to have an example of what this fucking looks like. Okay. When you have a cold, like physically, like a sneezy cold, you don't see like the letter cold across your forehead. You see a sneeze, you hear a cough, you hear sniffles. That's how you know there's a cold. Okay. So story. The third thing, but the second one I'm saying, okay, is the lesson. Okay. That's the part where you say, here's what we changed. Here's what was missing for me. Here's what I didn't know. Here's what you really need in your business. Here's why this problem exists. Here's the ultimate truth here. Okay. This was the part of all the examples that we did where we said, and you know what was really missing for me was my messaging fucking sucked. Right? I didn't actually say that at any point. I'm aware of that. Okay. But it's a part of the story where I was like, with my client telling me the confident thing, where I was like, wow, what she did was so difficult. We needed to figure out a way for her to say it that people understood. That's the ultimate truth. Okay. That's lesson. The last thing, not the one I'm going to say, but the last thing in your writing or teaching or whatever is the how for you. Okay. This is the part where you say, and by the way, there's 2 ways to do this. Okay. And I'll tell you them in a second, but this is the part where you say to your reader or to your viewer or whomever, do you want to fucking do this? Here's how you do it. Okay. Not just the lesson, not just the thing that needs to change, but like how you change it. Okay. When I say there's 2 ways to do this, this is what I mean. Sometimes, and I'm just going to put it in context of like a blog post for a second, but it goes for anything. Sometimes when you're writing a blog post, you really just want to give a great tip. Sometimes there's no offer whatsoever. Okay. Sometimes you're making an offer. Sometimes you're saying, join this program or take this free call or whatever. Okay. Depending on whether you're doing just a tip, that sounded really dirty. Okay. But whether you're doing just a tip or doing, I actually have a friend who has like a series of posts that he calls just the tip. Does anyone know Nick Tilia? You guys know Nick Tilia? Yeah. He does that all the fucking time. It's hysterical. Anyway, whether you want to do just a Nick Tilia, I'm kidding, or you want to make an offer. Okay. That's where you put it, that last section there. Okay. And by the way, like just to give you some inspiration, I've done that little offer so many different ways. Like I have a post that does really, really well where I do a story and a lesson and a how for you. And the how for you is very simple. It says, oh my God, I hope this doesn't sound like you, but if it does, I want to know. It's very simple. Okay. And I actually like people are always reaching out to me and being like, oh my God, like this does sound exactly like me. Like, and then I'm like, cool. Tell me exactly what is your story in this? Because obviously you aren't having the same number of problems that I am. What's your fucking problem? And then we get to have a conversation, right? Sometimes you stick in there like, okay, if this sounds like you, then you need to be in book paying clients. Here's what that looks like. Here's a link. Go check it out. You got me? Everyone okay so far? Let me do number 1. Okay, so far we did 2, 3, and 4. Number 1 is the hook. The reason I left it for the last is because you usually don't know the hook until you've written the whole piece. The reason being is you don't know what the fucking point was. Sometimes you start writing a piece and you think it's going to be about messaging and it ends up being about sales and you're like, shit. and you have to change the first line. Okay. But the very like best first line that I could possibly think of is something that, even if it's boring, you guys, encompasses the lesson somehow. Okay. Either that or just like a really shocking statement. And I hate to say it like that. Okay. I have one that's like, sales used to freak me out. And that one does really well because everyone's like, oh my God, me too. Okay. But like the very best hooks kind of they're usually something that says the lesson at the bottom, right? So I had a client the other day who her hook ended up being, you know, here's how, I don't want to say what she did, but here's how this like adventurous thing that I did. Here's how, I forget what she ended up with, but here's how this adventurous thing changed my business forever. It was something like that, right? I think Mel has a really good one time where she said, here's how buying my 6-figure apartment made me step up in my money. Do you remember that one? She had something like that and it was brilliant, okay? But it's going to be something that's like your lesson at the top. That's why I left it for the last, okay? Cool. Are we good so far? Cool. The very last thing I want to do here is all of this, by the way, like if the first thing was packaging and the second thing is really messaging, by the way, I hope you can feel how like all these like integrate, okay? It's not like, okay, wait until you do messaging until your package is really solid. That's not what I mean, okay? Get a little bit of your package solid, then do a little bit of your messaging. Because again, remember, it's just the same process over and over again at different levels, okay? But the third thing is sales. And the reason I say that is because all of this awesome content and messaging applies to your sales completely. Because if you're saying your thing so clearly that people get it, it's very natural that someone would want to work with you. And here's the reason why. Because when you are clearly diagnosing the problem, which is what you've been doing this entire hour, and when you're clearly saying the answer to that problem, i.e. the piece that you work on, the very natural next thing is, do you want to do that together? Okay? Because if someone's resonating with your content this much and they see the piece that you work on, the how for you, and they're like, oh my God, that's what would solve all my problems. Amazing. Like, why the fuck wouldn't they click buy? Like, it's very natural. Okay? And you know how people always say, and by the way, like, I don't know how you're going to teach sales next week, Brooke, but like, this is how I think of sales is when you're having a conversation, be listening for those pieces that they need that are missing that you teach. So that when you get to the end of the sales conversation, go, okay, cool. It sounds like the biggest pieces for you, and I actually use this phrase, are messaging so that you can blah, 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 whatever their problem was, sales so that you can blah, 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 whatever their problem was, and strong business foundation so that you can blah, 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 whatever their problem was. Like, you're literally saying that in a sales conversation. You're doing the same thing in your content. Okay. And this very last idea I absolutely swear is that people always say sales is service, right? Has anyone heard that? And I think, I don't know if anyone's going to get mad at me for saying this, but I'm going to just like say it really loud and obnoxiously. I think that's complete bullshit the way people normally explain it. Because people normally say like, sales is service because you're inviting them to become their best selves, which is like kind of true. But I actually think sales is service because ultimately what you're doing in a sales conversation, whether it's on the phone or in a piece of content, by the way, that can be sales in my brain. All you're really doing is you're helping someone discover what the real problem was. And that's actually what is so valuable. That when you get to the end of that post or the sales conversation or whatever, that you actually accurately went, you know what piece is fucking missing for you that's going to change all this surface shit? It's this one little thing. And do you see how like messaging is going to change this and this and this and this and this? So instead of like battering away at each one of your problems individually, we solve one core thing and all of it eases. Like, that is so valuable. Whether someone says yes to you or not, like, they now understand what the fuck has been going on this whole time. Like me with my ex, I would have loved if someone had said that to me right away. Because I did not know what was going on. And there's nothing more frustrating than not knowing what the fuck is happening. So my last inspirational speech for all of you before you ask all your questions is like, you're not really just doing this to like get really good at messaging so that people can understand you. Like, all that's great, but it's a little selfish. We're really doing this so that people can actually understand what's really going on for them. And sales is very easy from that space. Deal? Okay, cool. Shoot me with your questions. I'm done now. I'll shut up. Or biggest insights.
Oh.
Feeling shy.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, girls. My business is Pinterest marketing and strategies, okay?
Ooh, cool.
I find it a little bit harder with the concepts you're using because you're like using storytelling, like from a personal perspective. And I was planning to do also a blog, but about like Pinterest tips and how to do this, how to do that. But how can you incorporate like personal stories in that kind of business?
Sure. I think firstly, I want to just acknowledge that it doesn't have to all be personal stories. I would still do the same structure, but I would just think of it backwards. Okay. So like, what's a Pinterest tip that you might want to teach somebody?
For example, how to research SEO.
Cool. Okay, cool. And so when I've researched SEO, like why would I do that? What's the value there? What's the result that I'm looking for?
Because ultimately that is what brings the traffic to your Pinterest account and then to your landing page or website, wherever. Yeah.
Great. Okay, cool. So your like introductory paragraph might be, you don't have to do it exactly like this, okay? But it might be something like, today I want to teach you how to do SEO for your Pinterest, and here's why you should care. Okay. When you are able to drive more traffic more easily to your Pinterest page because you know what to code behind the page in SEO, then your traffic super increases. And if you've got all this great content on your Pinterest already, then that's only going to help you, right? More people are clicking, more people are traveling, like there's definitely more sales, there's more list growth, etc. So if you really just want to be able to do that with so much ease, I'm going to teach you this one simple step today, and all this shit's going to change for you. Okay. And then I would just go in and teach it, but you're kind of doing the same thing, right? You're saying what the thing is that you want to teach, right? The piece that you want to teach. And just pointing out the so that's, okay? So we're going to do this thing so that you can have this, so that you can do this, so you can have this, okay? The second thing I would say is that I do think you could probably tell personal stories, and I'm putting that in quotes because it depends on how personal you want to get, right? It doesn't have to be that like you're being a vulnerable, watch me in my tragedy sort of moment. I tell those stories even in business because I think they're very relatable. But you don't have to do that as long as you're picking things that demonstrate in examples why this is powerful, right? So you could even just say like, I had a client come to me once who, had really low sales, and yet she had all this great stuff on Pinterest that she was spending all this time putting energy into. And like, we only had to change one or two things in her Pinterest strategy to drive tons of traffic there. And because all her messaging on Pinterest was already so good, then she had this great result, and you can kind of tell stories like that.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, a lot. Thank you, Sarah.
I'm so glad. Yeah, you're welcome. And that probably goes for you too, Tammy, because there's so much practicality in what you do, right? You don't have to tell the vulnerable stories. I like them because I think they're funny. Like the number of times I use like stupid stories about my friends and my boyfriend and my dog, like to teach concepts, but it's just because it's an easy way for people to understand shit. That's really the only reason we're doing any of this. You just want it to be easy for people to see why it's important. There's enough trouble as it is.
Yeah. The personal aspects, I've been a registered nurse for 23 years, so that's where I bring in the personal experience thing, because in an electronic health record I've used I don't know how many, and so that way I can explain that a little bit better, and then telling them those pieces help build in the personal part of it, even though it's it's a very impersonal business. But yeah.
Well, all you're doing, and again, this goes for everyone, all you're doing is you're being like, I get it.
Yeah. Yep.
Valuable when someone like gets it.
Yeah. And I'm able to bring a different viewpoint from almost anybody else who's a practice manager, because they don't have the life experiences of being a registered nurse. So
Absolutely. Ooh, you're reminding me of a story actually really quick. My dad is a project manager for the FAA. Okay. And my dad was he was a fighter pilot. He's flown for the airlines, commercial airlines and everything like that. And so he's always going on about how he's such a good project manager because he's worked in the government, he's worked in the contractors' offices, and he's flown in private and public sectors. And he just says it. He doesn't even like think about it. And then yesterday, wait, hold on, was it yesterday? No, my God, it was this morning. I heard a friend of mine go on about her new program where she's teaching people in corporate to move to a better corporate. Jobjoy, Brooke. And I heard her describe this situation where she had men and women, and she taught them the same course material, and she just like quickly observed that the men they kind of like tuned out when she started talking about like boundaries and shit. They were like, oh, okay. Like she just felt like they weren't really jiving with it. And what I thought was so interesting was that it was blaringly obvious. And I was reminded my dad as you were talking, how differently, and I hate to like pull the woman card here, but how differently we've all experienced like being a woman in the world and being a woman in the workplace, that like we're worrying about shit that like sometimes it hasn't even occurred to other people, whether they're men or women. And so just to be conscious that sometimes you don't have to over explain yourself. Like I really want you to be getting conscious of like how you're doing your content, and that's amazing, but like keep in mind that like, you don't have to sit here and like try to get someone to understand you. If you just like lean back and say it, like, that's enough, you know? And so there's real power there in just kind of owning your own experiences and just saying them. And again, I was only reminded, and I'm not trying to like get into a deep conversation about feminism, but it's worth considering that, especially in an environment like yours, Tammy, that you've been in the last 20 years, like, I'm sure it's both men and women, and it's not just women. And so it's worth noting that sometimes we have to like just consciously go, wait, wow, this is not even a huge deal. Why am I acting like somehow I have to over explain myself here?
That is a struggle, because as a woman, still to this day, most doctors are men.
Yeah, absolutely.
So having that conversation with a man, and men are pig-headed and doctors are pig-headed, and so and I'm saying that in the most loving way.
Yeah.
But once they dig their feet in, it's really hard to get them to change. And so just trying to explain something from a different perspective but the women doctors are becoming more like the men doctors, and so there's a huge struggle there, and it is what it is. And like I said, I've been in it for 20 some odd years, so
it's true.
I have
really funny stories from like being in sound tech of like things that men say to me that it didn't even occur to them that it was bizarre, but they said it, and I'm like, do you realize how weird what you just said to me was? And it was because I was a girl. But like, you guys are all running your own goddamn businesses, and you get to dig your heels in any fucking time you want. And while I am trying to teach you how you could probably convince anyone in the world that what you do is worth spending thousands of dollars on, you don't have to.
Yeah, and I think this goes back to like what we've been talking about the whole time, just in different words. Like, the way that I taught it was like, you're only talking to your ideal client, and if other people don't get it, then they're not your ideal client. And this is the exact same conversation, just in a different way. Like, it doesn't freaking matter if everyone on the planet understands what you're trying to say, as long as the right person understands what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you know what? Actually, this reminds me of something I was going to say an hour ago that I forgot to say was, Brooke was there when I had this revelation of, I was sitting there and I heard my friend talk about posting like her videos to her Instagram. She was like, oh, it was so easy. I recorded it earlier this week and I just clicked send. And I was like, what? It blew my mind that she thought it was easy and low energy to post a video. Because as you can see, I get very into this. Like, you can see my face turning red. Like, I'm really into this. And I was like, what the fuck? And I couldn't get it. And I realized that I had been like, without meaning to, because on the surface, I hadn't over delivered. There was nothing about what I was doing that I was like, oh, I would have charged more money for this, or, oh, like, I'm tired. But I was tired after filming every video. Like 30 minutes of filming and I'd be exhausted for like an hour. And all I was doing was putting a lot of emotional energy into shit. Yeah. Be conscious that when you're writing your juicy content or sales or whatever you're doing, like, there's no reason why you need to energetically be doing this. I want you to physically remember to like lean back in your chair, that it's like, it's enough. Let it be enough. Whatever you end up writing, whatever you end up saying, like, it is enough to make you sales. It is enough to build your business. It's enough to get your point across. Like, just let it be enough, honestly.
I don't have a question, but I just kind of wanted to say, like, now I feel like I could get off and just like write 50 stories. Like, so I can write this story, or I can do this story. I can do, because I sold on eBay for 15 years and I have the craziest stories and examples that there were so many lessons in every transaction. And so I can just like rattle them off. And it's funny because when I'm talking to people in person about when they're interested in selling on eBay, that's exactly what I do. I tell them all the crazy stories and I'm like, oh yeah, and this one time, and oh yeah, and this one time. So I'm sitting here like I want to, can I share one quick story without taking? Okay, so this is the craziest one. This is the one that everybody's like, what? So as the lesson being that to keep your mind open when you're shopping, because it could literally be anything. Like, don't overlook anything. Mm-hmm. I was in a thrift store and there was a box of vintage diapers from 1978 and they were Loves. And they were like the plastic diapers with the tape, you know. And honestly, I had my phone on me, but I sometimes just get morbidly curious. Like, I wonder what this would sell for. So I didn't even bother looking it up and doing the research. I just bought it. It was $4. I wanted to see what it'd go for. I put it up for an auction because I couldn't find anything else like it, right? So there was 8 diapers in it. Originally it had 12. So there was like 4 missing diapers. So it wasn't even a full case. I listed it as an auction, and the same day it was already up to $11. So I'm like, cool. I made my money back. We're cool. So I'm watching this, and I had aunts even visiting from out of town who were like, what's it up to now? What's it up to now? Because it started climbing, and then it was like at $30, and it was at $70, then it went to $150. And I was like, what? I was blown away. And then I started getting nervous. Like the higher it went, the more I'm like, what do they think they're getting? Like, was I very clear about getting these plastic diapers? Like there's only 8 of them, you know? And when it was all said and done, it ended up selling for $428. And I was like, what the hell? Like, what did I just stumble upon? So then every time I found vintage diapers, I'd buy them, I'd sell them for a fortune. And so like I tell people, don't pass up. If you find something that's strange and you're just curious, like look it up or take a chance. You never know, but you can make big money on some of the craziest items like vintage diapers from 1978. And I panicked when it sold because I thought he thought there was 8 cases or something, like not 8 diapers, but 8 cases. But he loved it. And then later I researched and realized that people buy back their childhood, and it was a big thing to buy the diapers that you wore when
That's
you were
exactly what I thought when you said it. I was like, that's some mom who like enjoyed like the diapers when she had a kid in the 70s or something. But the other thing is, just to demonstrate, guys, she has like 4 stories in there.
Yeah.
You can tell that story 4 different ways. And the 2 big ones I heard were, you know, pick up the diapers and fucking sell them and don't worry about it. And then I heard you say, I worried about it. You know, that's another story, right? You moving through that sense of worry. And then I also heard when you said, when he bought the diapers. Now, I'm assuming the communication didn't go funky, right? But like teaching your clients to be able to handle communications when they go really well and to take care of their clients, and when they go kind of funky, and how to, that's 4 stories right there.
Right.
Yeah. Like any one of your stories, you guys, you can do that. And you can use the same fucking story over and over again. And by the way, if you write a piece that's really good, I still use a piece. I use more than one piece that I wrote like 3 years ago. And I just post them all the time. If you go on my Facebook page right now, there is guaranteed at least 5 pieces on it that were written 3 or more years ago. Guaranteed. Just keep reusing them. Yeah. So that was a really great example, Debbie. I love that.
Thanks.
Yay. Sweet. Cool. I mean, I know we're at time, so I don't mean to like, but if anyone else wants to shout anything else, you're welcome. No? Okay. Fine. Whatever. I wanted to just share really quickly, Brooke, like in case anyone wants it. I don't always do this, but I was thinking like, what's the greatest next step? And there's sort of 2 of them. So I want to give everyone who wants it, you do not need to take it, okay? But for free, I want to give you your signature method masterclass. And I literally just take in that class everything that we did today. So some of it will be repeating, but how to figure out what your actual signature method is within it. Because if you can say like, this is my way of doing it, like it just has so much more power to it. And so it could be really, really fun to take some of the pieces you guys had today and go, this is how I work. So we do that in there for free. And then I have a couple other things that I can share with you if anyone wants to take it a little bit further. One that I thought would be really fun would be give you my on-ramping class. It's a 3-part class where we take all the stuff you did today, but instead of just doing it organically, actually turning it into systems over time, which is something that I do with my clients a lot. So if anyone's interested in that, I can give you more details. But otherwise, thank you for having me, Brooke.
Thank you, Sarah. This is amazing.
You have the groups of people, by the way. Like you always have like the most amazing people in your spaces. Like that's just the facts.
Love it.
Yeah.
Everyone here is awesome. It's so amazing.
Very true.
Yes. So thank you guys. I hope you appreciate the variety of guest experts we have in here too. Like some of our guest experts are like the exact opposite of me, but Sarah, like she said at the beginning, we teach very similar things. And I still think it's so valuable to hear these concepts in different ways. And even though it's the same underlying thing, it's so different than anything I've ever taught you. So I hope this has been super helpful. Sarah's a freaking rock star. And yeah, thank you guys for coming.
Can everyone's asking for all the things. So I'll just give you all the links a little later today, Brooke, and she'll share.
Yeah, that's cool. Or I can add you into our Facebook group
Sure.
And that way anyone that wasn't here, if they have any questions after the replay, they could tag you in there as well.
I love answering questions.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys. I'll add you into the group as soon as we hop off here, and you can post all your links and it'll be amazing.
Thank you guys.
Awesome. Bye guys. Have a good day.
Sarah, thank you. Bye, girls.
Bye.